A nossa última keynote speaker é a Mandy Ogunmokun. A Mandy... A Mandy tem uma história de vida que é absolutamente fascinante e, acima de tudo, muito corajosa, e é essa história que ela nos vai trazer aqui hoje. A Mandy fundou e é atualmente CEO da Treasures Foundation, no UK, que é uma organização que acredita que cada ser humano, ou em cada ser humano, existem sempre tesouros, mas esses tesouros podem ter sido escondidos, eventualmente, pelas circunstâncias das nossas vidas. Aproveito para vos dizer que a talk da Mandy vai ter também acesso a slide, portanto podem adicionar as vossas questões no slide ao longo desta sessão. Muito bem-vinda, Mandy Ogunmokun. Yeah, feel free to use it.
Hello? Yeah, it's on. Sorry. Yeah, as you know, my name's Mandy, and I'm the founder of an organisation called Treasures. The original name was Treasures Out of Darkness, and why I say that is like, I'm just going to share a little bit about my story, and with all our women, there's treasures hidden in dark places, secrets that we've buried so deep. Like my life is quite normal amongst people coming from where I come from, you know. My mum was an addict, alcoholic, prostitute, and my grandmother was a prostitute as well. I don't know how far back it goes, but in our house, we kept secrets. And when I talk about secrets, the secrets kept us sick. We buried our secrets. I was sexually abused from a baby, from a young age. But the thing is, right, and don't get me wrong, I love my mum. My mum's not around now, but I love my mum because she also was trapped in that prostitution from a young age too, but it doesn't make it right what she did, but I still love my mum. And it's kind of like why I say secrets keep you sick and they grow in the dark. I mean, my sexual abuse didn't come to light until I got clean because I became a heroin and a crack addict. As a child, we was, you know, it's like, it's not normal, but we was taught like to thief, to rob the clients, the punters, the clients. It was just something that, you know, and we had this loyalty. We had this loyalty within the house. And it became us and them. It was always us and them. You know, I didn't get any qualifications at school, and why would I? I've got all this trauma and stuff taken into school that I didn't even know I carried. So anyway, so growing up, right, even though I love my mum, I swore down as a child. And I don't remember doing it, but I used to look at the other children in the school playground being picked up by their mothers and fathers. And I knew, well, I believed that they was normal and I wasn't. So inside, I made a commitment to myself, not aware of it, that when I grow up, I'm going to be the perfect mum. I'm not going to be like my mum, even though I love my mum. Right, and that commitment that I made, it could never be fulfilled because I too am an addict. You know, I started to drink with my mom, and then I didn't like alcohol. I hate the smell of alcohol, but I just drank. I just put it down. I didn't drink like a normal person. I would just drink the whole glass. Then I escalated to pills, spliff, cannabis, and heroin. When I found heroin, oh my gosh, heroin became my lover and my best friend. It's insane. But all I know that when I started taking heroin, I felt like I was wrapped up in cotton wool. And all I can attune that to now, it must have felt like being in my mum's womb. And it's crazy. It was as if I was trying to get back into that place of safety within my mum's womb. But I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, so I started taking heroin. My children was born addicted to heroin, and that broke me up because I was powerless. I remember my waters breaking, but I wouldn't go to hospital until I went and scored some heroin and some crack, right? And that is not the normal mother. That is not, that child, my inner child knew what I wanted was as a child, but because I was taking these drugs, I was powerless. I became a slave to them drugs. Anyway, I ended up going in and out of prison. Over the 20 years that I was addicted to heroin and crack, I was in prison every year. Now you'd call that a prolific offender. I was a prolific offender, but what's really sad is, this is what's really sad, I felt safe in prison. As a child, I was in and out of care homes, in and out of foster homes. And it's so sad to go to prison for a break. And a lot of people that I know go to prison for a break, and that just is saying what is happening in the community. And that's what's sad. Most people, when they want a break, they go on holiday. But we'd go to prison. I need to go to prison for a break. And then we'd be in prison, not a lot of drugs in there. There were drugs in there, but from once you stop using the drugs, the trauma comes up. Don't even know what the trauma is. They didn't even know that I had this abuse, being sexually abused. So it'd come out in aggression on the landing, right? So I'd be aggressive on the landing, and it's kind of like in prison. You want to. It's like there's a bunch of us that are petrified of being whatever normal is, because our normality has been stripped, that has been raped, has been taken away from us. And I'm talking about the ones that are coming from where I'm coming from. You know, had no role models to show us, to teach us how to live. We continue to replicate the same as our parents, our grandparents. And don't get me wrong, I've got a sister, she was brought up in a children's home from birth. Now, I'm mixed race, and I was born in the 60s. When I was little, I was told my colour was wrong. So there, right from the start, inside me, right, even though I could be, you'd see a mask, and you'd look at me and think, oh, she's confident. Inside me, I believed I am wrong. Because them words that was put into me as a child, I believed I was wrong, even though I'd mask it up and be somebody that had come up front and do, you know what I mean, be the brave one. Inside, I was petrified because I believed I was wrong. Now, coming into recovery, anyway, I ended up working in prison, which is a miracle, the same prison that I was in and out of, and that is a miracle. I ended up getting cleaned up, right? Getting cleaned up and stuff, and that is traumatic in itself. I had to look at and accept that I'd been sexually abused. And you know what? The biggest thing for me was the hardest thing to accept, that both my parents were paedophiles, right? So the biggest, hardest thing for me to accept, if my parents were paedophiles, that means I could become one. And I didn't realize that I was afraid of that. I thought I was just afraid of being a heroin and crack addict, thief and a prostitute, right? But the truth was, deep down buried, I was afraid of becoming my mother, my grandmother. You know, deep down, but it was all masked up. But in recovery, this stuff comes up, and when stuff comes up in me, I speak it out. I speak it out because words can set another person free. They know that they're not on their own. But anyway, so I ended up working in Holloway Prison, which was a miracle. I've got quite a long record, right? A miracle. And I was working in there, and the hardest thing for me, being in the prison, was to answer the phone. I think, well, what am I going to... I was petrified to pick the phone up and talk to a normal professional person. You know, but what it was, I got into the prison because people see in me what I couldn't see in myself. You know, because before my dad died, he said I'd die a prostitute, the same as my mother. You know, I couldn't see anything good in me, although there was a little flicker in me that would want to stand up and scream. But the way I screamed was in a destructive way. I didn't know how to do it in a righteous way. I come over in a self-righteous way, you know, with my body language and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so in the prison, I was working in there, and I didn't realize, right, that I was working with the officers. So I'd say, good morning, blank, good morning, blank, good morning. And then one morning, an officer said good morning to me. But then she wanted a conversation. I was thinking, I was only saying good morning. I didn't know what to talk to her. Right, but then I stepped in, started having conversation, and then I started to understand that the officers have got same problems as what I've got. They've got family members that are into whatever. You know, they may have problems themselves. It's a high maintenance job. A lot of the officers, right, not all the officers, I must say, but after work, they just go drink, because it's such a high maintenance job. To be fair, there should be AA for the officers. Do you know what I mean? And they should be free to be able to admit that, because it's such a strenuous job. You're talking about officers, right, being in the prison, they have to go and cut someone down that's just hung themselves. They're not therapists. And this is what I started to learn that whilst working in the prison, you know, and I started to have conversation with the officers, and, you know, and I found my voice in the prison, and I learned how to pick up a phone, and I might have repeated what the other professionals said, but after a while I found my own voice and thought I can just use my own language. Do you know what I mean? And that was such a gift for me. Within the prison, there was a nomination going for the work that you do in the community and within the prison. And I ended up going to Buckingham Palace, right? And I took one of my sons with me. And they said, this was the greatest thing. They said to my son, are you proud of your mum to come to Buckingham Palace? And he goes, no, not really. Go on, son. Do you know what I mean? Because I teach my children now, it's not about material things. The character is the most important. Because when I was out there on the street, I had it back to front. It was about what you can get. And my security was in what I can get, who knew I can get this, and what I could do. But my security comes in who I am, just who I am. Not in my past story, not in what, it's just who I am. And this is my journey that I've been on to find out who I am. And my son said to them, no, I'm proud of my mum every day. And do you know what? That meant more to me. That meant more to me than anything, because as a child, I wanted you know what I mean? I wanted to be proud. I just wanted to be that mum that my children would be proud of me. Anyway, from the prison, I'd see people coming in and out, in and out, and in and out. And to be fair, I knew a lot of the girls in the prison and staff and from street that, you know, and I see these people coming in and out, and I see the system sending them to approved premises, which was rubbish. There was crack and prostitution going on in these premises. So it's setting up these women to fail. So I went on a mission, like, need houses for women, need houses for women, need houses for women. And I was speaking somewhere publicly, need houses for women. And this man come up to me afterwards and he goes, I've got a house. Well, of course I'm not going to believe you. Anybody, do you know what I'm saying? Anybody give me anything in my past that was going to hurt me. So I believed he didn't really have a house. He was trying to get me. So my thinking was distorted. Anyway, I went there a year later and he come up to me and he said, I'm happily married. I'm a successful businessman and I've got a house. And do you know what? My friends had to push me into my purpose to take this house, and it was my first house for women coming out of prison. Anyway, this man is in recovery himself, and he's done well in business. He said to me, man, what is it you want? So I said, I still got that attitude, who are you, inside. I didn't say that to his face. But as he's saying, what do you want? It just comes up, who are you? It's just there. But I recognise this attitude now, and I can put it back down. Do you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so I said, I want 3 houses, a rehab, a charity shop, and a restaurant. And I was thinking, do that then. That was my attitude. Do you understand? But anyway, I'm coming out of the prison, and he said, man, I've got these 3 houses, come and have a look. And I'm thinking, I'm scared, because I'm working in the prison, I've got 1 house, and I know that if I go into 3 houses, I've got to let the prison go. And it's sadly to say that prison, it was my home. I felt safe in there. It was like, sometimes I had the keys, and sometimes I'd get locked in the cells with the women. I'd have to say, officer, do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But anyway, so I ended up going to have a look at these 3 houses, and when I see these 3 houses, I just knew that's where I needed to be. And I said, you know what? I'm going to leave the prison, I'm going to work in these houses. And he said, whatever the prison's paying you, I will pay you. Right? So I know that the provision is in the vision, that is there. So anyway, with these 3 houses, there's women. Right, this is just so, there's women, I can have women, there's particular women that have was in there for a year before they got undressed and went to bed, right? Because they're frightened of their abusers. Now, out there on the street, you wouldn't see that because they've got a mask on, they know how to drop it, they know how to move and make you feel confident with them. But inside, now the houses, they're just 3-bedroom houses, and they're homely, I want everything for the best for these women. We have another woman that was in there, she wouldn't get in the bath until the house is empty. And this went on for a long time. And then eventually she could get in the bath. And that's how we marked success. We had another lady that kept her shoes on to go to bed. Right, you don't see this in the community, but these kept her shoes on because of their abusers. And some girls come in there, the abuse is being buried, but you can see the behaviour. We had other ladies that threw up in bags and hid the bags in their wardrobe because they didn't want us to know that they was bulimic and anorexic. Right? We measure success when the women can come into group and say, I threw up last night. They don't have to keep that secret that's going to keep them sick. You know, because a lot of us in recovery we've got eating disorders, bulimia, overeating, anorexic. It just comes out. Do you know what I mean? But there is a solution, you know what I mean, that you talk about it. Now, I'm 22 years clean, right, off drugs, right? But I need to say, just, I can't remember how long ago, maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, I was sleeping like the girls, and I was in the front room on a blow-up mattress, because we have 24-hour staff as well. We do groups, all our women have trauma therapy, so I fight for the women to get trauma therapy. We've got a nutritionist. We've got somebody comes around and does gym. We've got a holistic therapy. We've got everything that I can think of. Because, and not only that, the women, when they get their children back, we have to work with the children. The children are not used to their mum not going out thieving. So the children, it impacts our children. So we have to work with the children, and the children have a lot of behaviours that are being passed down. You know, anyway, so I was asleep on this blow-up bed, and this was not too long ago, you know. And this, I'm talking about sexual trauma, right? And I was in the bed, right, and I said in a childlike voice, the snake is going to get you. But then I could hear myself. I thought, what are you talking about? There's no snakes in here, right? And then I went into another childlike voice. I see the cat wanted to come in. I said, it's all right, Fluffy, you'll get the snake. But I'm hearing that, and it's like there's two of me. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Right, because on this bed, the bed moved, and it triggered something. Right, I didn't get it until the next day when I was jogging around the park. Now, I'm talking about just a few months. I was jogging around the park, and I see a worm cross the track. And the minute I put my foot over the worm, I see a flashback of my hand being led to the man's penis. So I was petrified of worms and snakes all my life, and I didn't know that was why. I'm not frightened of worms now. I can pick them up. You understand? But I did not know why. And I'm just going to say another thing. My son, my younger boy, my boys are men now, and the good things, then they're not drug addicts. They're not thieves. They're professionals. They're in work. You know, they're proud of me that I speak openly. But I remember one of my sons, he likes to stroke. He used to like to stroke my arm. And I said, please don't do that. And then I froze, like I went into trauma. That was trauma. Because him stroking my arm took me back. And with us women, we don't know when we're going to get a flashback. You know, so I got that flashback, and then afterwards I realised what it was, and now my son can stroke my arm as much as he wants because I know where that was coming from. It's like when I talk to my sister, right, my sister's very much in the way of, like my mum, prolific self-harmer. You can't see her arms for cuts and that. But when I see my sister, when I used to see my sister, I used to see my mum. So what I say now is, that's not mum, that's Debbie, that's my sister. Do you know what I mean? But before, it gets so twisted and distorted, I didn't know who it was. My mum's not around now, right? My mum's died a long time, and my dad's not around. But you know what I've got? I've got the gift that today I can say, love you, Mum, love you, Dad, on Father's Day and Mother's Day, and it's genuine. It's not out of loyalty. It's out of a genuine child that can just say, I love you, Mum, that I always wanted. I can say that today. You know, I don't really know what much to say, but all I know is that the rehabilitation and the transformation of the mind, because I have this head, right? I got diagnosed with cancer in January, right? I need to let you know that my cancer's gone, right? But I have to take the chemotherapy. When I got diagnosed with cancer, right, it's so crazy. It showed me how much I hate my body. I didn't know I hated it that much. You know, it's a breast cancer. But my head, my sick head, said to me, oh, that's okay. You can have them both taken off, right, and get some new ones. And when I heard my head talk like that, I thought, no, I don't want to lose a part of me, but my whole life, I didn't want that part of me. So it's taken me to go through this chemotherapy to value my body, to value, I'm losing my fingernails and toenails. I didn't used to bother about them before, but through this treatment, I care about my nails. And do you know what? I've never really done all that plucking on the eyebrows and all that kind of stuff, but I do know I probably might start doing it because they might grow back really bushy. All right, I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you so much.